All right. Welcome, everyone, to episode 199 of America's favorite podcast, The F and Marks.
I'm Jay.
And I am the brainless one.
Yeah.
And I am fucking hyped today, baby. Woo!
You don't just get hyped.
I stay hyped.
Yeah.
I'm like Mojo Rawley. I'm convinced that man does freaking lines of coke before he goes out there, by the way.
Yeah, I learned from Hulk Hogan.
And probably every other wrestler in the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah?
So,
but anyway, we got quite a bit to get into today. We want to discuss the results from Full Gear from last week's show. Pretty solid show, to say the least, from AEW last week.
Yeah.
A couple of surprises. And, of course, the brainless one tismed out. And it's not very often that the brainless one tisms out at the curtain jerker match of a pay-per-view, but nevertheless, here we are. We're also going to talk about breaking news from yesterday, the release of WWE superstar Zelina Vega.
Yeah.
And that whole barnstorm of shit.
There's going to be a shitstorm with that, I think.
And I'm actually going to say something that I never thought I was going to actually say going later on in this podcast when we get into that situation.
Sure.
Also, and probably the biggest surprise of the week.
Absolutely.
And that's even covering the Zelina Vega getting fired. We have a new NXT North American champion. Holy shit.
And it's not somebody you would think.
It's not somebody you would think. And I'll tell you right now, El Jefe is definitely
a little ticked off.
He's definitely ticked off, to say the least.
Thanks, Chris.
Any other news and notes and all the other stuff that we typically talk about during the podcast. So, I say we get right into it.
Yeah.
I say we cover the newts.
Yeah, we'll go over the newts.
The newts.
A newt. Oh. Yes. I think he's talking about the curtain jerker there.
Oh, goodness gracious.
That's don't eat brown snow.
Just as quick as it was in the pay-per-view last Saturday.
Thank you for everybody tuning in, and thank you for everybody who's out there liking, commenting, and sharing. So we really appreciate that. So
she turned you into a newt?
A newt?
Oh, I got better.
All right, Monsef. All right, which shirt, man? Which shirt? I mean, they're both, I think, pretty mint. But
I mean, yeah.
I mean that's the official shirt of the podcast.
Yes.
Which we have.
Quite a few of them.
Some of, if you're interested in purchasing them.
$20 a pop, baby. But anyway, let's get into some news and notes for the week. First thing I wanted to talk about very briefly. WWE has reached out to former superstar No Way Jose about a possible return.
Yeah.
My favorite part about that, Jay, was when I was reading the headline for it was WWE contacts recent jobber for possible return, and I'm like, oh, man, that's just terrible.
Well, you know what? I've heard that they have reached out to several former employees. I have not seen anything about that name, F and Marks Hall of Famer Curtis Axel, but I'm guessing he's one of them. But personally, based off of what WWE did with him for all those years, he'd be better off in AEW. But that being said, WWE is contacting all these people, but kind of lowballing them as far as the money they're offering. And it's like going, hey, assholes, you just had the most profitable quarter of your entire company's history. Why do you need to lowball these people?
Because Vince McMahon sucks. And
I'm glad. Well, you know what? It's a fucking good reason why AEW's there. So guess what? People can get money and not have to suck Vince's dick.
The problem with WWE, and I know I've probably said this before, like a few weeks or months ago or something like that. The problem with WWE is just going out there and signing everybody now. WWE is going out there and signing all these big name marquee independent wrestlers just so they won't sign with AEW. I mean, you think about it. I mean, has Cameron Grimes, who used to be known as Trevor Lee, he kind of just sat down there after they had their Futures tournament about a year ago, where they were, where they kind of built up Angel Garza, who's gone on to the main roster and has actually had a pretty solid run. I love Angel Garza, by the way. Obviously, what the hell is the crossbow guy?
Yeah, Damian Priest.
Damian Priest was another guy that actually no, he kind of got his name before that. But Bronson Reed got a big push for that. Isaiah Swerve Scott has actually had a pretty solid run. But there are guys that are down in NXT that are just kind of like fluctuating in freaking purgatory because they have nothing else for them.
Like Leon Ruff.
Like Leon Ruff. And a lot of these guys just don't get those opportunities because there's just too many people. Another point, a case in point, was last night on SmackDown. We finally got the debut of Chelsea Green on the main roster, and she hasn't been seen since May.
And guess what?
She broke her wrist in her debut match. She was supposed to win that match too, by the way, in a fatal four-way.
Bummer.
And that's just an unfortunate circumstance. She said that's the kind of luck that she has. I mean, that's what happens when you're.
That's like Finn Balor luck.
Yeah. I mean, that's what happens when you're engaged to the broski. Woo woo woo. You know it.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate, but I mean, does anybody really miss No Way Jose? I mean, I liked No Way Jose. He was pretty cool down at NXT.
Yeah, a lot of fun. And when we saw him at the NXT show, it was great when he came out. He got the crowd into it. Loved it.
Yeah.
Really fun.
But it's just, I just thought that was interesting that's the stuff that stood out for me was the fact that, like you said, they lowballed the shit out of him. And I saw the headline that they contact recent jobber for a possible return. I'm like, come on, man. But,
right. And again, I'm glad that like Impact Wrestling is able to offer people legit contracts. AEW is able to offer people legit contracts. New Japan's able to offer legit contracts so they don't have to sit there and eat shit from Vince.
Right. I agree.
So,
I think that AEW is really good for the wrestling industry because you need that second outlet. Otherwise, Vince McMahon is just going to continue to monopolize the wrestling industry in this area. I think he's already done that here. He's already done that in England. Obviously, in Japan, New Japan owns that. But, I mean, in Mexico, they got AAA and all that stuff. So,
and I think CML.
CML. Sounds about right.
So, yeah.
Yeah?
Well, honestly, one of the questions I've always asked is, like, why haven't they ever done, a pay-per-view in, like, Mexico City? Like, they've done stuff in Toronto, in Canada, Vince used to always be about like, oh, it's got to be within, the U.S. time zone because that's where the bulk of the audience is. It's like, well, why haven't you done it in Mexico City? Well, it's because AAA and CMLL are there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you think about it, two of the most influential pay-per-views in WWE history happened outside of the United States. And I'm not saying that WrestleMania 18 was a great WrestleMania. It wasn't a bad WrestleMania. But that match alone, Hogan and The Rock, is so legendary that people still talk about it, about how that building shook. Just without anybody even saying anything, without them even fighting each other, the building shook. And then Triple H had a afterwards, because he had the.
I mean, he was going against the GOAT, but I mean, you can't follow up. Hogan and The Rock there.
But also think about it, I think it was 93 SummerSlam from Wembley Stadium.
1992.
I'm off by here. I'm sorry. 1992 SummerSlam, when the main event was the Intercontinental Championship between the British Bulldog and Bret Hart, in my opinion, one of the greatest matches of all time. And that show was actually a pretty solid show, minus the fact that Hawk from the Legion of Doom was probably
coked out and whatever out.
All that stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think that to go back to our original point. I think that Vince McMahon going out there lowballing is stupid because they have all this money and the fact that they actually have competition now because AEW can go in there and scoop all these guys up themselves, which, was something that I always thought was going to be an issue. But anyway, yeah, moving along. For all you marks out there who also happen to be Star Wars marks, it was a very, very cool moment. Yes, I was kind of right in your wheelhouse when I said that. I mean, there's other fans who are also huge Star Wars fans who are also marks in the wrestling industry. Nicole is a huge Star Wars fan. You have to be if you have 3 freaking ports tattooed on your body to be a Star Wars fan. But anyway, when you can cross those in, it's not very often. In fact, I think this might be the first time ever that we had wrestling and Star Wars.
I think so.
Sasha Banks made her debut on The Mandalorian in the latest episode of The Mandalorian.
Yep.
As somebody who is kind of like a novice fan of Star Wars. Like I like Star Wars, but like I'm not like, oh my God, Star Wars. I thought it was really cool that she was in The Mandalorian.
I have not seen the episode yet. I had a very important kickball playoff game last night, so I was unable to watch it, but I'm going to check it out today. But you know what? It's cool to be able to see those two worlds cross. And you know what? Good for Sasha for getting that for herself. And I think part of it was filmed during her hissy fit period. But, you know, again, good for her for jumping on the opportunity and getting on one of the most popular streaming services and streaming shows out there. As much as WWE is a global brand, Star Wars is a different level of a global brand. So her being attached to that's nothing but good for her and nothing but good for WWE.
Okay.
So
it's kind of like what we talk about with Orlando Bloom, where he's got two great movie franchises behind it, you know, like in his back pocket.
yeah,
So it's like he doesn't really need to do much. So for her to expand in a way that she has, that's pretty impressive. It's kind of like when Batista joined the Guardians of the Galaxy,
Yeah.
and then became part of this whole Marvel universe. So here we are watching, you know, the last ride of the Avengers. I think that's what it was called, last ride. Where the Undertaker came out, and I mean, I remember as the Undertaker came out and freaking hit a last ride on Thanos, and that's how they beat Thanos.
yes, it was.
Or was it that John Cena came out and hit him with an FU, and then it was all over?
What's up, Michael? Monsef, you know, it's cool if you think Star Wars is overrated. You know, I grew up with the stuff, and like, I saw it so many times. Like, even though I know there are flaws in the movies, I kind of don't see them because, like, that's just how the movies were. So, as much as people will point them out, I just watch the movie and I'm like, yeah, it's fine. It's great.
See, from
But if you're talking from a design perspective, like, nothing like this had ever been designed before. And then you get the breathing, and then you get the laser swords. I mean, it's fucking awesome.
I think that for the time period that those
Oh, that was light years ahead of everything else.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, we're actually wrong. Sasha Banks is not the first WWE superstar to cross over into the Star Wars enterprise, because you got to remember that Cassius Ohno was the stunt double for Jabba the Hutt. Oh shit! That was, you know, that was coming. I bet you knew that was coming at some point.
Yeah.
You didn't know. You didn't.
Yeah.
It was like an RKO. It came out of nowhere. So awesome to see Sasha Banks on The Mandalorian. I actually thoroughly enjoy The Mandalorian. It's a great show. I'm looking forward to starting to watch season 2. Season 1 was awesome, so looking forward to that. And I don't get hyped for Star Wars, so the fact that I'm actually excited for it is
By the way, Don't Eat Brown Snow saying that he has some Star Wars action figures and also wrestling figures that he is looking to sell very soon. So, anybody out there who is looking for any of those things, I know Don't Eat Brown Snow has a whole bunch of both. So, if you're a collector in any way, make sure you hook up with him.
And it's funny too, Don't Eat Brown Snow. I've actually decided to get back into the wrestling action figures game. I actually went to a store and spent a pretty penny on 4 action figures, including a very exclusive Walter action figure that I'm looking for, you know, that I'm excited about, that I have. Same thing with the Undertaker. And I also got the GOAT. So I'm actually getting back into that. I might be interested. We'll see. It also depends on how much leeway I get. What's up, Chris Brown?
F. Mark's Hall of Famer.
Elect, I think. Isn't that what it is? The Hall of Famer elect.
He is an inductee.
One of the most latest inductee in the F. Mark's Hall of Fame, Christopher Brown.
Yeah.
But good to see you on there, dude. So, all right. Also, this week there was an interview that came out where the Bella Twins came out and said that they would love to get their hands on the women's tag team titles and have been discussing a possible return to WWE.
Yeah, well, you know, both of them gave birth, ironically, like a day apart. So their kids are almost at least twins as far as...
They were twin magicking that.
Yeah. So, but apparently John Cena actually reached out to Nikki Bella and, you know, congratulated her after the birth of her child. And, you know, class move from Cena. So good for him. Yeah,
I agree. I really don't want to say I've been completely against the Bella twins for a while. I always thought that they were very overrated. Yes, I understand that the biggest thing is you put eyeballs on the screen and everything, but I always thought that they were overrated. Like, we're the reason for the evolution. Yeah, it's because of the fact that you can only wrestle 2-minute matches, and that was the only way you would look less shitty. I never
the
thought
reason for the revolution was Mickey James and Beth Phoenix, and then and Mickey James was the link to like Trish Stratus, and like when they actually had some decent wrestlers back in the late '90s, early 2000s with Trish, Lita, you know,
a lot of the big name wrestlers.
But yeah, they were not the beginning of the women's evolution.
But
that's the tagline they like to go with.
So I really don't need to see them ever again.
You know, but they might. It might be one of those things for them. They're like, you know, I wouldn't mind having my kid watch me see what I used to do. So I get where they would be coming from with that. Like, you know, Goldberg a few years ago specifically wanted to come back to wrestling because his son never got to see him do what he did. Like, Goldberg obviously has made a decent amount of change outside of the wrestling industry. He has that holiday classic Santa Sleigh, which I'm sure he made like $50 for. But you know,
which is what you got paid just for the concussion part of the Saudi show.
You know what though? But like sometimes you get people who have not done wrestling for a while, and they're like, going, you know what? I want my kids to be able to see what I used to do.
Well, Chris Brown actually brought up a point that he said that the Bellas came out and feel like they created those titles for them, and that was just one of those things that they would like to accomplish. Kind of come back for a ride like that. Frankly, I'm just going to let it be perfectly known that I'm not a fan of the Bella Twins. I'm sorry. I have nothing against women's wrestling. I'll come out here and I'll talk about
Nia Jax every day.
How much of a fan I am of people like Lacey Evans. I like her a lot. I do like Peyton Royce. I think that she has a very bright future in the WWE. I love Thunder Rosa. Thunder Rosa is a bad bitch. I think that Tessa Blanchard, wherever she ends up, is going to be a very impactful person in the wrestling.
I see what you did there.
I do like Becky Lynch a lot. She's still my favorite of all of the women in the women's division. I think that Ruby Riott and Liv Morgan have a chance to be something special. I think Carmella's vastly underrated for the women's division. I like Sasha Banks. Sasha Banks, for what she has done, like attitude-wise, I can overlook that just slightly overlook that because of the fact that Sasha Banks is still one of the best, an incredible talent inside the ring. Bayley, for everything that is wrong with her face and her horrible demeanor, I think that Bayley is one of the best women.
She's grown leaps and bounds.
And I know a lot of people aren't going to like me saying this, but as much as everybody hates Charlotte Flair is still one of the top 5 wrestlers in the company.
Not women.
She's
in the company.
Just in general in the company. There's not many that are better than she is. And yes, I understand that she gets pushed a certain way because of the fact that, you know, a lot of people want to blame the fact that she's Ric Flair's daughter. But the fact is, she goes out there and she delivers. She has great matches. I mean, the fact that she does that backflip off the top, that's such a badass move.
Her moonsault is one of the best in the industry. He can't do it as well as he used to, but Daniels with the best moonsault ever. That might be my favorite. Kurt Angle did one, but it always scared the hell out of me with the way he floated in the air.
Well, the only thing about that, Chris, because Chris Brown said that, what about Thunder Rosa and Tessa in AEW? AEW is not going to sign Tessa Blanchard.
Tony Khan has been pretty vocal about, like, if you have allegations against you about being racist or saying racist things, you're not coming to AEW. I mean, we'll see if he keeps to his word. Chris Jericho said he was never leaving WWE. He'd never wrestle in any other company in the world. And you know what? People change their minds.
And now he's talking about how he'll never leave AEW.
And good for him.
And that's great. I think it's good because you need somebody like Chris Jericho with the accolades that Chris Jericho has accomplished in the wrestling industry to help build towards the future and so forth.
I mean, quite honestly, he's what Terry Funk was to ECW at the beginning.
But somebody like Thunder Rosa would be a great addition to the women's division. I think that the AEW women's division is their weakest link still. They have a couple of nice pieces in there. Hikaru Shida is very good. I like her a lot.
By the way, while you were on the Thunder Rosa note, she will be having a rematch against Serena Deeb coming up on Dynamite in the next couple weeks.
And Thunder Rosa is also, I guess, available or a free agent or something like that. And she has talked about possibly going to WWE. She said that it wouldn't work out. It's not a perfect good fit for her to go to WWE. I think she's definitely better suited to be in AEW. I ultimately think Tessa Blanchard is going to end up in WWE, though. Because Vince McMahon never shies away from people when they have baggage, so to speak.
Right.
So, something you wanted to add?
No. As far as all these different things go, it's like we shall see where kind of the chips fall with all this stuff. I'm convinced if they do the next Women's Evolution pay-per-view, that's where Tessa Blanchard will debut.
Agreed. One more newsworthy piece of information that I have before we get into the main topics for today's episode. So The Undertaker did an interview, and obviously when you're a legend like The Undertaker who has been around the wrestling industry for 30 plus years, and you are the greatest, you are an icon. That's the best way to put it. And, and a lot of people will take your word over probably 99% of the people in the wrestling industry. Anyway, Undertaker came out and did an interview this week, and somebody asked him who was somebody in WWE that he is a big fan of, and the person that he came up with is...
I actually didn't see this interview.
Ooh.
No.
He said Bray Wyatt, The Fiend.
All right.
He said that he is a huge fan of The Fiend, and he said he's the strongest character that they have, and if they keep going in the right direction with him, but also if Bray Wyatt continues on building up his character, he has a chance to turn this into something really
like
special.
The Undertaker.
Kind of like what The Undertaker is. I'm not even going to say was. The Undertaker still is.
Well, and what did we discuss last week? About Undertaker and having it be his final farewell.
I think that would be perfect.
Because Bray Wyatt still needs to get back at The Undertaker, and the fact that Undertaker brought him up specifically definitely is a...
That would be a nice rub.
Dangling.
Yeah, that'd be a nice rub for Bray Wyatt. Even if they don't get their rematch from WrestleMania 31, The Undertaker just coming out and just getting mandible clawed and everything, I think would be a nice little thing. I'd love to see The Undertaker in the Firefly Funhouse. Are you kidding me?
And maybe it was in a different interview, but Undertaker also came out and said he's not a huge fan of cinematic matches, specifically
the Boneyard match.
It sounded like he enjoyed it, but part of his issue was with it. He feels as a professional wrestler that he needs to go out and be able to perform in front of an audience without having to have something be able to mask his deficiencies at this point.
Right.
He wants to sit there and be able to do it in front of a live audience. Now, I don't think he was denigrating, when Matt Hardy does these matches, it's not to hide deficiencies with him. It's more of to elevate character and have something unique. Where, I think with the Boneyard match, it was a combination of, yes, trying to hide deficiencies with The Undertaker, but also to do something, story. Yes.
It's a great story.
Yes. So, but yeah, he wasn't too high on the cinematic style matches, but that match was awesome.
I like that, and I'll tell you right now, and I don't know if it was something I said to you or if this is something I said to Nicole. I want to say it was something I said to Nicole. Now, you know how everybody goes out there and they crucify WrestleMania this year because of the fact that there was no fans, and they were like, "Oh, this is the worst WrestleMania."
Except there was one fan.
Right, there was one fan blown. Yes, you're right. But now, let me ask you this: do you think that WrestleMania would have gotten a lot more credit for being a better WrestleMania than it was minus the fans if the Thunderdome was a thing back in April?
It would have been a better viewing experience, like just overall. And speaking of Thunderdome, WWE's lease with the Amway Center is going to be up very shortly. But rumor has it the Amway Center is going to give them a couple more weeks. But I believe it's like the first week of December they're supposed to be out of there, and they're looking for other places. One of which is actually Tropicana Field, which is one of the worst hellholes as far as a baseball stadium there is.
Joey!
Joey!
What up?
Yeah.
And I think that part of the reason why they're going to be out of the Amway Center very soon
Because the Magic are
is
coming
because
back
the
home.
NBA is going to be coming back, and the Magic need somewhere to play so they can go 44-38 and piss me off like they always do.
44-38. Yeah,
It's an 82-game schedule.
it is.
I can't believe I actually got the math.
I was thinking about it for a second. I'm like, did he get the right amount of games?
Well, when your team finishes 44-38 on more than one occasion, you kind of just have it happen. I mean, hell, the Magic were an 8 seed one year, and they were like 25 games under 500.
Yeah.
Yes, fuck the Rays, Timmy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Tropicana Field is the worst baseball field I've ever been to in my life. They spared every expense they possibly could. I mean, the top of the dome, like they built it like this specifically so they could save money on pouring concrete. And if you have a baseball game there, it's not every game, but almost, I'd say a good amount of games, you end up having a ball hit the rafters, specifically because they were cheap asses. And it's like, there's nothing exciting about it. There's the pool out in center field with the Rays, but like
the death tank.
And I think they were the first place to like incorporate kind of having the restaurant with the high top tables on the side. Other than that, the place fucking sucks. Yeah. It is the worst.
So it's the John Raffio of Major League Baseball.
It absolutely is. I hate that place, and I can't see them. Like, they would have to probably put the ring like near the pitcher's mound, but like they would have to set up the hard cameras in such a way that it would be close enough to the seats to set up all the different things for the Thunderdome. Because if you shoot the other way, then all of a sudden you just have this cavernous field that's empty, and it would look like crap. But Kevin Dunn, I've also heard, breaking news, is building a dam on the other side that possibly could be tall enough where they could put those different screens.
Oh, but don't worry, Jay. I mean, there's going to be a point where, like, Baron Corbin throws, like, I don't know, Dominic Mysterio in the Ray tank, and he gets, zapped like he was Steve Irwin, and then he'll be back the following Friday for SmackDown.
Absolutely, Tim. Shitty team in a shitty stadium. Speaking of Baron Corbin, I'm wondering if he's going to, as far as like writing a particular character off of TV, because get the feeling that either he's going to be future endeavored soon or other things. I'm wondering if Aleister Black might get thrown off the top of the building again pretty soon by Baron Corbin, and this time not survive and show up, less than 24 hours later on television.
Well, I think that the reason that you brought that up is a good way to segue into our main topic for this evening.
Wow. You know what? It's evening for Monsef right now.
Ooh.
It's evening for Monsef.
Yes,
we're worldwide. Yeah. Anyway.
So the big news coming out this week actually came out yesterday, right before SmackDown, was that WWE came to the terms on the release of Thea Trinidad, aka Zelina Vega. Zelina Vega has been very vocal about a lot of things with WWE over the last few weeks, especially ever since they decided that the whole third-party streaming services was no longer
Twitch,
were no longer going to be used by their superstars anymore. And a lot of them actually started doing, like, I was devastated to see AJ Styles shut down, because AJ Styles actually does his just, so he can communicate with the fans while playing video games. And I think that's stuff like that is really cool.
Yeah.
And I guess that Zelina Vega, I know that a lot of people were making a big, deal about the fact that Paige was very upset about it. And I get it from like Paige's perspective, because she's no longer an in-ring performer because of a, career-ending injury that she suffered in a match with Sasha Banks, I believe. In the match.
Yeah, Sasha kicked her, and
it was just a terrible accident that happened. But accidents do happen, just as Chelsea Green. But I nothing else has really been made of it over the last week after the whole Paige thing, and it looked like Paige is actually able to keep all of her streaming services. So I guess that Zelina was very upset and really did not want to give up any of her stuff. And her and WWE got into an argument on social media, and she sent out a tweet saying that she supports unionization of professional wrestlers in WWE. WWE got pissed off about it, and later that day she got released. So,
and allegedly, the decision to fire her came before that tweet, allegedly, but the information actually did not get out until after that tweet. But it's one thing we've discussed several times on this podcast, is I don't know if necessarily there needs to be a wrestlers union, but and unionization is probably one way that they could fix the whole independent contractor bullshit that they have to deal with. If you're an independent contractor, you should be able to do things outside of work for WWE without having to have them give the okay for everything. Because guess what? You're an independent contractor. You don't work for WWE. You work for yourself.
Correct.
So how does WWE get to control you in everything about you? And it pisses me off that these people who put their bodies on the line for us aren't able to fully capitalize on that. And one thing that is interesting coming up is that when it seems like 99.9% sure that Joe Biden will be our next president in the United States.
Still holding on to that 0.1%.
0.01. But there's basically about a snowball's chance in hell that Donald Trump's going to figure out a way to basically overturn what appears to be Joe Biden's victory. But for months and months, Andrew Yang, who did run for president in 2020, has said, hey, Joe Biden wins, I have the ear of the president then, and, I am going to specifically speak to him about this independent contractor status that WWE has with their professional wrestlers. And you know what? I think it's about time that Vince McMahon has to eat shit for this specific thing, because so many wrestlers over the years, specifically from 2001 up until a couple years ago, WWE has more or less had a monopoly on everybody and everything as far as professional wrestling goes. Yeah, Impact Wrestling had a time where people could go there to get paid, but they were getting paid far less than WWE. AEW is paying not the same as WWE, but a lot of it comes down. You can make a good living, and I think a lot of the performers prefer it just specifically because they have creative freedom. There's something to be said for If you go into a work environment and you're creatively stifled and you're a creative person, you're like, I need to get the fuck out of here. But if you're getting paid a good wage to do your job, and you could do Twitch, you could do Cameo, and you can, you know, be yourself. Yeah, I'll take less money and eat less shit than I have to actually enjoy my fucking life. So I'm looking forward to Andrew Yang being an advocate for the professional wrestlers out there who have been fucked over by Vince for so long. Like, you know, Alexa Bliss came out and talked about the independent contractor thing this week, and specifically, it was almost like she was telling the company line, hey, we get hurt in the ring, anything happens, Vince really takes care of us. He sends us to the best doctors. We get the best rehab, this, that, and the other thing. That's great and everything, that he does do that. But if you get hurt outside of the ring, guess what? He doesn't take care of you.
And a big thing too with the contracts with WWE that I found out years ago, when you are hurt with WWE, you don't collect that entire salary. That's what always gets me the most.
And they can extend your
contract.
You can
extend your contract the amount of time that you're actually out for. So, like, let's say, for instance, let's say Daniel Bryan would be a prime example, because everybody knows Daniel Bryan's contract he just signed will be his last full-time contract with WWE. If, like, let's say he goes out there and let's say he tears a quad or something and he's out 9 months to a year. Well, when his contract was supposed to end, it's going to get extended. Kind of like when he said that before he got injured, that was going to be his last contract and he was going to retire. And then he got, the head injury and wanted to get back in the ring, and then he signed a new contract and everything like that.
Yeah.
That prolonged everything. The Rey Mysterio was another one. Rey Mysterio's contract actually was supposed to end earlier than it did, and it got extended. They made a big deal about Luke Harper, who's now known as Brody Lee, when he suffered that injury when he was with the Bludgeon Brothers. That extended it. He was supposed to be out and was planning on leaving once his contract expired, and they
extended him out of spite.
Yeah. So he didn't go to AEW. And I just think it's stupid. So, and mark this on the calendars, Jay. I don't know where Nicole is. Her little logo didn't pop up.
It was there before.
It was there for like a hot second, but now it's gone. But mark this down on the calendars, ladies and gentlemen. Today, November, I think 14th?
Yep.
November 14th of 2020. I can't believe these words are going to come out of my mouth. If all this stuff that Andrew Yang says, and he's got the ear of the president, like he says, and this comes back to really fuck Vince McMahon, I am actually happy, minusculely, about Grandpa Sleepy Joe being the president of the United States.
So one thing Chris Brown brought up was that AEW calls them independent contractors too, but the difference here is AEW has allowed guys like Chris Jericho and a couple of the others to wrestle in New Japan.
Yep.
Moxley wrestled in New Japan. So they legitimately are independent contractors. With Miro, he could do his stuff on his Twitch.
Darby Allin can wrestle in independent scenes like in NEW. I mean, he's still the NEW World Champion.
So I have less of an issue with AEW referring to them as independent contractors, because guess what? They legitimately are. They get to choose the stuff outside of wrestling that they do. They could still go to other promotions and do their thing. So I have less of a problem with AEW. I have a problem with Vince McMahon telling his independent contractors what they could do with their life. I mean, the fact that, like, I forget who the hell it was, but one of their performers was injured for a bit of time and got a haircut while they were on injury and came back, and they were yelled at. I think it actually was Miro. He got yelled at for getting his haircut. Fucking independent contractor. And they're yelling at you for getting your haircut.
And of course, this is what Vince McMahon's mindset is, and it's always going to be his mindset, is that the company is bigger than the star itself. He's just remember, Hulk Hogan was replaced. Austin was replaced. The Rock was replaced. John Cena's being replaced. Everybody can be replaced. And It's ridiculous, and I don't think
And the
it's fair
company
to
is bigger than the wrestlers, but you got to treat them better.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like we come out here and we vehemently throw shots at WWE, but like the one thing that I'll give them their glowing endorsement is when they have those wrestlers who have drug problems, they cover all their expenses to go to the best rehab facilities to help them get better. I mean, how many times have we talked about Scott Hall going to rehab on WWE?
Oh yeah, they've done great
and,
with that.
X-Pac has done the same thing. And there's a lot of these wrestlers from the past who've developed drug problems. And WWE has done it. And I applaud them for that. Yeah. I also applaud all the things that Stephanie McMahon does, where she goes out there and does all these things, the Be a Star thing, and she's always in the forefront, and she's doing wonderful things for WWE outside of the company. I have no vitriol towards her. I have no vitriol towards her husband, Triple H. I definitely don't have any issues with Shane McMahon. My biggest problem is the old crusty, dusty fuck who is stuck in his old ways, who either needs to retire or die. I don't care. I'm not picky.
I think he has to die. He will not retire.
Yeah. And I know you keep saying like his mother's like 137 years. 137 years old. And I get that, but it's like, okay.
But I hope this gets fixed. And Chris Brown was talking about how one of the bigger names needs to back like unionization for it to take hold within with the wrestlers. And it's like, again, I don't think the word unionization needs to happen here. We just need a law on the books saying, no, these people are independent contractors. They should be free to do what they want with their life.
I will say this, and it's going to be the big problem that they have when they need somebody, like you said, a big name person to support the unionization. I've been working for over 20 years. All right, I'm really aging myself right here. I've actually been able to work for over 20 years. And I've worked at my fair share of jobs. And one of the jobs that I've held for a good portion of more than half of that time was FedEx. And FedEx was one of those companies, they were a Fortune 500 company, very successful. They're all over the fucking place. You see fucking commercials for them during the Super Bowl, for crying out loud. And the big thing about the difference between FedEx and UPS is that UPS is unionized and FedEx isn't. So FedEx or UPS can pay their employees a hell of a lot more. And, the FedEx driver like, wait, how come we do the exact same job as UPS, but yet they get paid $10 an hour more? Well, they got to pay union dues. And we're like, well, why do we have to pay? Why do they have to pay union dues and like all this stuff? And it's like, what's the union going to do for them? And over the years that I worked there, I couldn't tell you how many times the union bailed somebody out from losing their job at UPS. And then if something stupid happens in FedEx and you get fired, and it's like, you're basically unemployed.
Yeah.
But as soon as the word union, like you don't like, oh, you can't be sitting there on the belt scanning packages and say, hey, you know what, we need a union? Because I swear they like shut down the belt and they grab you and they beat you senseless. Don't ever say that word in our presence. All those jobs that are not unionized will complain of, they hear about it, it's game over. So I understand why there's wrestlers out there who will be afraid to go up and say, like, they need to be unionized. I think it's great that Zelina Vega finally came out and said it. I think they need somebody big. They need, like, Roman Reigns or Braun Strowman or,
if The Rock came out and said something and pushed Vince about it, but I don't think he would. But I think even though Rock is not, part of the company officially, but I think if The Rock came out and said anything, Vince would have to at least listen for a moment.
Well, he's going to have to listen in about 4 years because I'm sure Vince is still going to be doing it in alive in 4 years. And Dwayne's going to be number, 47? 47, right?
Yeah.
47?
Yeah.
When he's laying the smackdown on Joe Biden's candy ass in 4 years.
Right.
I would love to. Because it's going to be funny because he's going to be like, who are you again? Well, I'm the president. It doesn't matter what your name is, Sleepy Joe. I'm going to take that microphone, dust it off, turn it sideways, and stick it straight up your candy. And then Biden will be voting for
Do you actually believe Joe Biden's going to make it 4 years?
I'm going to be.
They say the presidency ages you dramatically. He might last his acceptance speech because he's going to age like 57 years in 15 minutes.
You think he's going to be William Henry Harrison?
Possibly.
Okay.
You know what? He's going to have his acceptance speech, and we're going to be you know what? He probably is going to do it from like a bubble inside the White House instead of doing it out on the steps of the Capitol building.
I accept my position for U.S. Senate. No, Joe, it's president. Oh man.
I am the running mate of Kamala Harris. But I just get the feeling that Joe is not going to last the 4 years, and it's going to be Kamala Harris versus The Rock, and it's going to be for the SmackDown title, and perhaps maybe even 24/7 championship. I think that would be great. I think the two of them on the debate stage, and then you just randomly have Jinder Mahal come out. And he's in his wrestling gear too.
Challenges the president-elect to a Punjabi prison match.
Yeah, I think that would be great.
Oh shit! But anyway, another interesting wrinkle of all of this is Aleister Black, who is the real-life husband of Zelina Vega. I guess a few weeks ago, Aleister Black requested to return to NXT because he doesn't like where his standing is on the main roster, whether it's on Raw or SmackDown, and Vince denied him his opportunity. I mean,
honestly, he got killed at Money in the Bank,
and it's like,
and he came back to
like, I don't understand what that old fuck is thinking when he does shit like that. It's like, yeah, I'm trying to wrap my head. It's like you got all these great pieces, and they're all down in NXT. And it's like you bring them up to the main roster. I mean, Asuka has finally overcame all of that shit. But look at Ricochet. Ricochet is basically fighting in main event. Not in the main event, but on main event.
Yeah.
Aleister Black is forgotten. Aleister Black was like undefeated for a long time in singles competition.
When they brought up him and Ricochet together, they were a great team. It looked like they were going to, possibly put the tag titles on them and have them do something great and be together for a while.
And they dropped the ball with that. I mean, Ricochet. I think that I would love to see Ricochet go somewhere else because he's and I love Ricochet and I love
underutilized,
underappreciated, and he's arguably one of the best performers in the ring. Same thing with Aleister Black, and it's just a shame because Vince is just fucking up WWE at this point. And I'm curious to see what happens and what the future lies for Aleister Black now that his wife got future endeavored and is now has caused major waves in the WWE.
I mean, look what's happened to Lana over the last several months since Miro debuted on AEW.
Please, I don't even want to.
It links perfectly.
Okay, it does, but it's pettiness. It just proves the pettiness of Vince McMahon, and that has been the biggest thing with Vince. This whole thing. Vince McMahon fucked himself over 4 years ago when he released Cody Rhodes because Cody Rhodes didn't want to be Stardust anymore. If all Vince McMahon had to do was let Cody Rhodes go back to being like whatever Cody
Dashing
Rhodes.
Cody Rhodes.
Oh God,
Dashing Cody Rhodes.
Dashing Cody
dude,
Rhodes.
Either Dashing Dashing Cody Rhodes was the one who had all the freaking paper bags. I loved that. That was one of my favorite things.
When he came out to the entrance and it had like all the mirrors. And
it was so good.
Cody Rhodes was a phenomenal talent. And there's not too many people in the industry that could have gotten Stardust over. And I thoroughly enjoyed Stardust because I just love stupid shit.
Even though like Cody was not totally invested, but he was professional enough to do his damn job.
He got it over. And he didn't want to be Stardust anymore. And he went to Vince and said, I don't want to be Stardust anymore. And they're like, well, too bad. And he said, well, good. Well, release me from my contract. And then he sat out the 90-day non-compete clause. And then he went all over the independent circuit and started making a name for himself outside of WWE. And they're like, hey.
And then befriended the Young Bucks. And then the Young Bucks and he linked up and did All or Nothing.
Yep.
And sold out a 10,000-seat arena
in Chicago, where Rey Mysterio took part in. I want to say Pac took part in that as well.
But they promoted a show without having a giant corporate backer. Like if that didn't do well, they would have been financial hardship. Very similar to Vince McMahon with the first WrestleMania. I think he mortgaged his house. If that didn't do well, he would have gone bankrupt.
Yep.
Cody Rhodes put it all on the line. He and the Young Bucks.
And I'll tell you right now, it helps the fact that Cody Rhodes is the son of one of, if not the greatest wrestling mind in the history of the business.
Yeah.
And he bet on him. He bet on himself. He got help from the Bucks. Obviously, Kenny Omega was part of that. Hangman Page.
Another person out there, and you don't love him, but Kevin Owens, he said, was very instrumental in trying to help Cody navigate the independent scene, understand the independent scene before he went out there.
And I'll tell you, like him going out there in that independent scene, he got in the ring with people like Darby Allin and got in the ring with Jimmy Havoc. And he was able to fight a lot of these guys. And it's like, and Cody was like, hey, you know what? These guys would be great if I start a wrestling promotion. And they got the backing of Tony Khan, whose dad is the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Billionaire.
Who's a billionaire, who's a huge wrestling fan. And it's like you get a guy like that to back your company who has the financial aspect of it. And it's like, you know what? With Cody's mind and the abilities of some of these guys like Omega, I mean, especially like I know I trash Omega, but Omega is one of those guys that you definitely can build a company around. I won't take that away from him. Just don't give him a microphone. You know, and you get guys like the Young Bucks who are arguably the best tag team in the entire world.
Yeah.
And then you got like somebody like Chris Jericho, who's established and probably one of the biggest names is still wrestling.
What is he again?
He is the GOAT of GOATs, who has goated more than GOATs have ever goated in the history of GOATdom. I got to get that on a T-shirt or something. Yeah, they're gonna look at me like you're fucking retarded. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm brainless. But I mean, you think about this. They got the right like amount of talent that they could to start building this thing up. They got people like Pac. They had Hangman Page. They had the Young Bucks. They went and they got the Best Friends. They brought in people like Orange Cassidy, Jimmy Havoc. Obviously, Jimmy Havoc is gone now. You know, adding Kip Sabian to this, bringing in guys like Sean Spears, who are not as well known as a lot of these people, you know, in the WWE grand scheme. But the fact that he was good friends with Cody Rhodes because they worked together in WWE down in FCW actually. And it's like, you know, he's a great talent. You get guys like SCU who made a name for themselves, or at least Frankie Kazarian and Chris Daniels made a name for themselves in Ring of Honor, and they made a name for themselves in Impact. And you bring in all these pieces. Get a guy like Chris Jericho who's got that name recognition. And oh, by the way, let's bring in Jon Moxley, who just got released from WWE and is hungry and wants an opportunity to be the biggest star. And I'll tell you right now, I said it before years ago, and I'll say it again. Jon Moxley is the most talented member of the three members of the Shield.
I agree. Most well-rounded. Like, now I'm going to say, like, Rollins was not the greatest talker for a while, but he has become a hell of a character and a hell of a talker. Even Roman Reigns, who sucked on the microphone, it took him until he had that big feud with Cena.
Yep.
Before Roman finally like went from being terrible to being decent, and then to this day, even though the recent work he's done has been phenomenal on the microphone, my favorite promo from him was after he beat the Undertaker at WrestleMania.
This is my yard now.
But like he worked that crowd perfectly, where every time he brought the mic up to his mouth, once they started
booing the shit out of him,
he took the mic away. He worked that room perfectly, and he just said, "This is my yard now." He had the confidence when he said it, dropped the microphone, got out of the ring. He had that crowd hating his freaking guts, and it was perfect.
I'm going to say this. I know that Roman Reigns gets a lot of venom spewed at him because of, you know, what he is. And I know that Roman Reigns isn't the greatest wrestler, but if Roman Reigns gets into the ring with the right people, guys like Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt, who he can use his strengths in matches against these guys, he's going to excel. Guys where he's going to have to carry matches, kind of like Cena. If Roman Reigns has to carry a match, it's going to be fucking terrible. If Roman Reigns goes up against somebody where his strengths are going to be on full scale, then yes, he's going to be very successful in the ring, and he's going to look good doing what he's doing. Seth Rollins was always a great. I love Seth Rollins in the ring. Seth Rollins is the best of the three in the ring, slightly over Jon Moxley. Moxley's
more of a brawler than an actual technician.
And true. And I would say, like, in the technical aspect of it, yes, you want somebody like Seth Rollins in there because, you know, you think about, oh, imagine him against Owen Hart. Oh, imagine him against Eddie Guerrero. Oh, imagine him against Bret Hart. Oh, imagine him against Kurt Angle. Da, 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 da. Like, Dean Ambrose, it's like, dude, I'd love to have this guy have my back if I walked into a bar and some dude's hitting on my girl. That's what I want. And Roman Reigns, I just want him when I'm at the Westminster Dog Show. See what I did there? Because he's the big dog at the Westminster.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I don't know if they do them so much anymore, but they used to have wet T-shirt contests. But what we have every year for the Marquee Awards is we have the wettest hair contest.
To this day, by the way, this will be the 5th annual. Speaking of which, the Marquee Awards will be going on as regularly scheduled. It's usually the last show of the year. And 2020, with a pandemic, with a political...
Well, like in Virginia right now, we're going back to phase 2, but that just says we have to have gatherings of 25 or less. This is a gathering of 2. And El Jefe will probably join us. F and Mark's Hall of Famer El Jefe will probably join us for that show.
But don't worry, there'll be 6 feet of separation between all 3 of us. I'll even wear a mask if I have to, just for all of you people out there. But it is going to go on as normally scheduled because of COVID purposes, which it's a bittersweet thing for me. I mean, I love it. It's my favorite show of the year. Well,
it is, and it's still going to be a fun show. I'm definitely going to be wearing my tux that day. I think you are too.
I definitely have mine's already at the cleaners.
So yeah,
I sent it in. It's going to be dry cleaned and ready to go.
Yeah.
But I will say this: I have a really sneaking suspicion that Roman Reigns is going to win the award for wettest hair for a 5th consecutive year. The only person to ever win a Marquee Award 5 years in a row.
Right. There was I think it was Monsef who asked the question, what style of wrestling is the best? He said best, not favorite. For me specifically, my version of the best is also my favorite, which is more along the lines of the British style, British strong style. I personally enjoy the stuff where it looks like, they're laying it in stiff and it looks legit and you could tell that they're hitting each other, and like that Walter Dragunov match, like when you see all the welts that they have on their body because they've been hitting each other with chop after chop after chop. James E. Cornette, who I've more or less just written off, talked about that match being a masterpiece, and a lot of people, including me, say that the man is stuck in the 1980s. And Cornette specifically kind of addressed that, where he said, you know what, people think I'm stuck back there, but as far as an evolution of the business, this is the exact match that I would think, from my belief in wrestling, this is where it should be going.
I've always said that Walter is definitely a wrestler who could have succeeded back in the days of Andre the Giant and Big John Studd and like the Hulkamania, that time period where he looks like, he just looks like a monster that could go up there. And he is a monster. He is a big boy, but he can do things that not a lot of people can actually do. He's kind of like, he reminds me a lot of like a taller, like not as like thick version of like Bam Bam Bigelow, where Bam Bam Bigelow, who was a 300+ pounder, super heavyweight, who could fly off the top ropes like he's super fly Jimmy Snuka
cartwheel
and stuff like that. And to go back to the question of like what my favorite type of wrestling is, I always look back at it as like whenever we talk about dream matches. A lot of people talk about like, oh, I would love to have seen Austin and Hogan in their heyday. I would have loved to have seen, Andre the Giant versus the Big Show, how awesome, or Andre the Giant and the Undertaker. And I always look back at it as the one match that I would have loved to have seen. If I could have pit any 2 wrestlers at any time period against each other, I would have loved to have seen Bret the Hitman Hart and Kurt Angle. That's the type of wrestling I like. I love the old school wrestling where the wrestlers would start with the test of strength and they would do that stuff like that. And they would do headlocks and they'd run off the ropes and hit them with shoulder blocks. And they would drop leg drops and they would punch them and they would do like elbow drops and like just like pure unadulterated wrestling. That's the type of shit I love. That's the stuff I love. That's why I love Bret the Hitman Hart and I love Kurt Angle. I mean, hell, Eddie Guerrero was another one that was good like that. You know, guys like that. I mean, Bob Backlund back in the day was that type of a person. That's the prototype of what a professional wrestler is. Guys who are going to put you in moves. I don't want to sit there and watch the 5 moves of doom every single time because that's all John Cena can do. Are you kidding me? I know Hulk Hogan's complete move set. All right? It's not that hard. It's very simple.
That's what she said.
Thank you. But like Bret Hart, because he's just he was the excellence of execution. He was the greatest technical wrestler. That is the perfect professional wrestler, and that is the one that I think of when I talk about my favorite style of wrestling. The just go out there and you're from the beginning to the end, you're just wrestling.
Right.
That's the stuff I enjoy. I mean, I don't mind watching like Ricochet. And, you know, I mean, like
I enjoy, like, the luchadors, and I enjoy people like Ricochet, but, you know, specifically with the luchador style, like, when they do some of, like...
It looks choreographed.
Not only does it look choreographed, but you can tell that, like, the other person is doing the move.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the luchador, like, Rey Mysterio, you know, with his legs around the person's neck.
Yeah.
It's the other person sitting there spinning themselves around, and then they end up, and stuff like that looks fake. And one of the things Chris Brown specifically brought up is he does not like the style of wrestling where, you know, you could see when they hit their leg to make the sound a little bit more. It's like when you do that, it just takes you completely out of the space that they're trying to get you into.
See, I'm one of those types that I prefer to watch somebody like Cesaro wrestle over somebody like Roman Reigns or John Cena was wrestling. I prefer to watch somebody like The Fiend or like The Undertaker. Like The Undertaker was great at what he was. He is the greatest character of them all. He played it. I mean, especially like early years Undertaker, where he would just like sit up and it's like he's a dead man. No wonder why it doesn't work on him.
Well, and you know, during his first Broken Skull session, he specifically said, I patterned that character after Michael Myers.
Yep.
Michael Myers walked slow and just, you would sit there and feel this inevitable feeling of doom because no matter what you did, he just kept coming at you and he didn't have to go fast.
That's my favorite.
And he didn't say anything.
That was one of my favorite things about professional wrestling, where The Undertaker said that, like, how they can all relate it somehow, some way to movies. Because The Undertaker came out and said he modeled his character after Michael Myers. I mean, if you think about it, I just had one now. I just lost it.
I know Roman Reigns specifically said his current character is somewhat modeled after, I think Bill the Butcher from Gangs in New York, which was Daniel Day-Lewis's character. And he's like, not necessarily that, like, that's exactly his character, but the idea of, like, Bill the Butcher so fervently believed in the things that he was saying, even if it was incorrect, he so believed it and he just was that. Roman Reigns right now is saying, like, you know, his character is like, he's saying these things that he believes, even if they're off the mark.
And it's just, and I just remembered what it was. Like Scott Hall, when he came in to interview back in the 90s with Vince McMahon about playing Razor Ramon. And it's like, you know, Scott Hall, who was a guy who was known as Big Stud Scott Hall when he was in, I think,
Diamond Stud.
And he was Diamond Stud, and he was like this big hulky dude, and that's what he was. And then it's gonna turn into like a oozing machismo guy. And he said he based that character solely after Tony Montana. And of course, you know, I was gonna bring this part up. My favorite of all the wrestlers who got their ideas solely off of movies, Mark Henry.
Yeah.
Mark Henry, who based the character of
Sexual Chocolate
after one of my personal all-time favorite movies, and the sequel's coming out next month, and I've never been more hyped for a sequel in my life.
137 years old. 137 years old.
Coming to America. He based his character, Sexual Chocolate, from the late 90s, early 2000s, after the Randy Watson of Yes. If the one is wrong, and I don't want to be right. Yeah. Yes.
So one question that was actually thrown out there while all this was going on is, considering what happened with Zelina Vega this week, do we see Paige getting released by WWE?
Yes. And I'll tell you right now, once Paige gets released from WWE, I think that's going to lead to a firestorm. Paige is going to get released. Aleister Black, in my heart of hearts, before the end of 2020, is also going to be released, unfortunately. I'm thinking that there's going to be one big name star that's going to get into trouble for all of this, whether they come to one of their defenses or it's a situation where they get themselves in trouble over this. I would love to see what happened if AJ Styles was like, no, fuck you, I'm keeping my Twitch.
I think AJ at this point is like, I think not a complete company guy, but enough of a company guy for WWE that he's not going to do that. And he's like, you know what? He said this is my last contract, so it's like.
He also did say, I know that they did him a huge solid because he was working on Fridays. His son's playing football in Georgia on Friday nights, so they facilitated and moved him back to Mondays so he could watch his son play. So I'm pretty sure that whatever they ask AJ Styles to do, unless it's something so egregious, he's going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
But he would be like the big name of a wrestler to do something like that they need to kind of get this thing moving forward.
Yeah. Right. But we'll see. I don't know. I think I'm kind of on the fence with Paige because I think Paige is a unique case because she's not on TV every week. Because she's not on TV every week, it's like, how can Vince plausibly say that your following is just because of WWE? That to me doesn't hold a lot of weight. So yeah. And Monsef chiming in also saying, as far as a match he would like to see, dream match, Cesaro versus Chris Benoit. If you could sit there and deneuralize maybe what he actually did, seeing the two of them in the ring would have been awesome.
Another one that I always think about, because I always say Bret Hart and Kurt Angle, another one that I would love to have seen would be Bret Hart and Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah, and it was brought up Eddie Guerrero and Seth Rollins in a match.
Yeah.
Obviously, the one match everybody wanted to see, and it's a shame we never got it, was Sting and The Undertaker.
Another one that we didn't get to see for different circumstances is Eddie Guerrero and Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania. It's just unfortunate, and we just celebrated, I think it was yesterday, the 15-year anniversary of when Eddie Guerrero had passed away. For me, one of the most heart-wrenching and devastating days as a wrestling fan.
Well, it led to the Benoit thing.
It did lead to the Benoit thing. And I will say that, for me, Eddie Guerrero's passing is the second most devastating of my lifetime because nothing against any of my favorite wrestlers, because I know that everybody has to go when they have to go. Nothing will be more devastating for me than Owen Hart passing.
Yeah.
But Eddie passing was definitely it's a solid second for me. Just all the matches that we could have had, even talking about how Owen could have had a career renaissance if that didn't happen because of the fact that Eddie Guerrero. Imagine Eddie Guerrero and Owen Hart wrestling against each other. That would have been absolute batshit crazy.
Shawn Michaels versus Okada. If it's at the Tokyo Dome, it would get 10 stars. And if you ended up having Kenny Omega in the match, then it would be.
What about Kenny Omega versus Christian in a dirt on a face match?
Right.
They both would have won.
A blue dot match. Whoever loses gets to have the blue dot. Yeah.
Bailey versus Karen. And a basic what is it? What's the resting bitch face match?
Yeah. Yeah.
The manager on a pole match.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Vince Russo. You've given us so much shit.
It's such good shit. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, there was all of that going on this week, but to touch on a few things that did actually happen in the ring this past week. Last week we had Full Gear, and we ended up. Honestly, I was shocked that Darby Allin won the TNT Championship.
I was really shocked.
And part of my shock with this was that, Cody just re-won that recently. But you know what? I enjoy the fact that it wasn't predictable as far as that goes. I think I even picked FTR last week. I think I thought you had an interesting idea of like going, all right, Bucks will win, but they're not going to win the titles. But Bucks actually
looking strong.
Bucks came out this week and said, the original plan was we weren't going to get the tag titles to like 2021, but I think they felt like they needed to up the game as far as like Full Gear goes to try to get more people invested in it.
And I will continue to say this, that AEW has the best tag team division. And that's not even like a slight, because Impact does have a really good tag team division as well. WWE had the possibility of having a great tag team division, but it seems like all of the great tag teams that have the potential to do something, they split them up and, make one of them a jobber and the other one's a joke.
Yeah.
And it's a shame because, they've done that on more than one occasion where they've broken up great tag teams when they were at the peak of being one of the top tag teams. But I do enjoy AEW's tag team division because it's second to nobody. Just the depth of it and the talent that they have there is incredible. And the top two tag teams in AEW delivered like they were supposed to deliver on Saturday. As the fact that I was wrong about my prediction, technically I was right because I said they were going to win, but not win the titles. I was still a little surprised that they walked out with the tag team titles.
Well, between that and the fact that Matt has the injury, I was kind of like going, are they going to?
Yeah, that's why
I thought they were going to, give him time to rest and heal. But, I guess, they feel like now was the time, put the titles on them. And, obviously he's been wrestling with that injury for months. And, obviously he gets around fine. But, that's not going to heal on its own just by, resting a little bit. That's one of those things that, he's going to have surgery to fix.
Yeah.
So.
Speaking of the Bucks and the Elite, the curtain jerker, which is known for the first match of the night of the main show, not the pre-show, was between one Hangman Page, the pride of the Commonwealth, going up against some guy named Kenny Omega. I kid. I come out here. I know I come out here and I say what I say about Kenny Omega and how he is overrated, and he is. I don't care what anybody says. That match was fucking awesome. Kenny Omega's had a couple of really awesome matches in AEW.
Him and Moxley
is still one of my favorite matches I've seen in the last 5 years, and it was definitely my favorite match in AEW.
Not my favorite, but it's high up there. I still go with Dustin and Cody.
That was another good one because the storytelling in that was just incredible. Moxley and Omega just beat the fucking shit out of each other. And I finally watched the entrance of fucking Kenny Omega.
Wasn't it so good? Now, one thing people asked about was why he incorporated North Carolina in it. And it was just specifically similar to Michael Jordan, the GOAT of basketball. Just another thing to put that entrance so over the top so he could be the biggest dick in the world who's more full of himself than anybody else in the world.
The biggest dick in the world who also loves to have the biggest dick in the world and not his own.
Yeah.
I'm convinced he's, not that it really matters, but I don't care. I just don't like Omega at all. I really don't like Kenny Omega. God, I fucking hate Kenny Omega.
Mike, absolutely agree. That's one thing we brought up the last couple of weeks about heavy machinery, breaking them up. And it seemed like if you're going to have Tucker, kind of turn to be a heel, it seems like there should be a blow off to he and Otis, and they should have a couple of matches, and they're on separate brands, so they're not going to have a match. It was absolutely stupid, and the fact that they apparently are going to have Otis and Gable as a tag team. Like, why did they do that? Similar to the whole Billy Kay and Peyton Royce thing. And Peyton Royce actually came out this week and said, I will never tag team with anybody else beside Billy Kay. And it's like, if Vince McMahon sees that interview, we're going to see much more of Peyton Royce with whatever tag team Vince chooses for her.
It's like the old adage: you never want management to know what you don't like, because they're going to have you keep doing what you don't like. I don't like taking out the trash. Well, guess what? You're going to be taking out the trash every day. I don't like tagging up with anybody but Billy Kay. Well, guess what? You're teaming up with Lacey Evans next Monday. It's just how it goes. Once they find out you don't like doing something, they're going to have you continue to do it over and over.
Once you find out that the brainless one doesn't like Kenny Omega, you bring it up over and over again. And then eventually the brainless one's like going, gets to see that wonderful entrance Kenny Omega has now, and gets to see him and Hangman Page have this great match.
It's like the meme with Iron Man, where it's like, and Kenny Omega has this over-the-top entrance, and it's like the one where he's rolling his eyes, and it's like, yep, that's exactly what I felt like when I saw it. Kenny overrated Omega. KOO. Yeah. But anyway, the two of them had a great match. To the not delight of the brainless one, Kenny
to the delight of wrestling fans.
To the delight of a lot of wrestling fans. Although from what I've gathered on social media, that was a little bit more split on what everybody thought, because I think a lot of people wanted to see Hangman Page get an opportunity, because Hangman Page hasn't gotten an opportunity at the world title since he lost the title to Chris Jericho over a year ago, and they would have liked to see him get that chance, because Omega's already had a chance, multiple chances.
Well, you know what? I think this is honestly, I think this is long-term idea where I think we're going to see Hangman versus Kenny Omega for the AEW title at some point. Because Omega, via his victory, has earned the title shot, and he will be challenging Jon Moxley. I believe it's December 2nd on AEW Dynamite. I'm not sure he's going to win the title that night, but I think he is going to win the title, and I think long-term booking-wise, Hangman Page is going to get his victory for that title against Kenny Omega.
And then Kenny Omega drops the belt to Orange Cassidy, and the best way to get the biggest heel in the wrestling industry over, have him take the title over the top babyface.
Well, that's the idea. All right, Jessica says, what's our take on Chad Gable approaching Otis? Honestly, I want to see Chad Gable do something more than what they've done with him. The Shorty G shit was just, it was retarded. It was really stupid. And you're talking about a guy who's a former Olympian, a legit, shoot wrestler that can go in there and do things that most other people can't do. And you turn him into this terrible character, he could be so much more than the crap that they're forcing him to do. And I if this is something that gives Chad Gable a way out of the shit basement that he's in, great. But they should be giving him more than this.
The Shorty G thing makes me think of quite a few years ago, probably about 10 or so years ago, when they broke up the tag team of Jesse and Festus, which was Luke Gallows, and it was wasn't that Dory Funk Jr.? Or wasn't that
no? It was Terry Gordy's son, Slam Master Jay.
That's it, Slam Master Jay. When they did that whole gimmick, it was the dumbest thing that WWE has ever done. I'm sorry, hated Slam Master Jay was stupid. It was fucking retarded.
I'm sorry, Katie Vick was dumber than Slam Master Jay.
I almost want to do another version of We Didn't Start the Fire and just come up with every stupid thing that WWE has ever had. I would probably.
We don't have that long. I don't want to do a 10-hour podcast.
It's gonna be. The song's gonna be longer than Stairway to Heaven.
I would have to loop that thing for like a day.
I would probably die halfway through the song.
Yeah. Yes.
What if I did like? What if I did it with like all the stupid things WCW ever did? We'd have like a 48-hour marathon. It'd just be me singing. What was the tag team with? What was the tag team with Scott Norton before he joined the NWO and did his own thing? Was it like Fire and Ice or some shit like that? Wasn't it like Ice Pick and like Firestorm or some shit like that?
It was something.
It was something stupid like that, right? And it was like one of the dumbest things. I mean, the Shockmaster. I mean, come on.
And by the way, for all those wondering, yes, the Shockmaster and the Black Scorpion are actually relatives. That's why their voices are so similar. Rumor has it that the Black Scorpion and Shockmaster are actually brothers.
Ironically, the Black Scorpion's a two-time WWE Hall of Famer. The Shockmaster should be in the Hall of Fame. Think about it.
Yeah, Isaac Yankem DDS is another thing that is on the list of dumb things that WWE has done.
Let's see.
Duke Drosy.
How dare you, sir, speak ill of
the Goon?
The Goon was fucking stupid. So was the Repo Man. So was Kazarni. So was, let's see, what else was stupid at WWE? I don't have time for all
the Manly Man.
He's a man's man.
Yeah.
He's a man's man. And I fucking love William Regal, and that was terrible. I was like, what the fuck? Like, as a teenager, seeing this, like, what the fuck am I looking at? I'm like, this is not William Regal. This isn't Lord Steven Regal. This is a guy wearing a fucking flannel shirt and work boots, and he's a man's man. Like, he's a man's man.
They tried to make him look like the Brownie Towel dude.
I mean, come on, that would have been like, I really am surprised the Undertaker didn't come out as Eggman. Because that's how fucking retarded Vince was back in 1990.
From 90 to about 96, that was a bad period for Vince.
The gobbledygooker?
Hey, that has become... Gobbledygooker has become, at least in WWF, WWE, or similar to Clash 13 for us. We're like, all right, it was so stupid. People are kind of like going, yay, gobbledygooker. Yeah. Oh, the Ninja Turtles were fucking awesome. Yes, they lasted for like a week or two. That was great.
The magician's name? Was it Phantasmo or some shit like that?
Yeah, I think Phantasmo is correct.
Oh, Kevin Thorne?
Chris, you are absolutely correct. AEW is not immune from doing moronic gimmicks. But
no, they're not.
I mean, Britt Baker, she is a legit dentist, but like, it doesn't need to be part of her persona. She could just be, a bitch.
I mean, unless she was like going to give people like root canals as a finishing move. That'd make me tap out. I hate root canals.
I was just so frightened I was going to be Eggman. I'm going to be Eggman.
Oh shit! Remember when they used to have like the slot matches when Henry Godwin was a thing? Like they did theme matches. Yes. Henry Godwin had like the pig pen match.
Undertaker had the casket match.
Yep. I mean, Al Snow and the Big Boss Man wrestled in a Kennel from Hell match. I mean, they had the.
Punjabi prison.
Damn it, Jay! You beat me to it. Like I couldn't even get it out of my mouth fast enough, and you had to beat me to Punjabi prison.
Honestly, they should have Roman Reigns in a dog collar match.
I mean, they invented the Inferno match for Kane.
They did.
We
could go on and on.
We really.
This is fantastic.
No, I don't have time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for
that. But anyway, so to go back to Full Gear from last week, like you said, Darby Allin going over against Cody, going over on Cody was a big surprise. The Young Bucks winning the tag team titles was a pretty big surprise.
Eddie Kingston, to me, actually quitting, like legit quitting. I was a little surprised, but like again, they had a brutal match.
I love it.
And the way that they ended it, like, I'm like, all right, yeah, Moxley did some dastardly shit to finally get Kingston to say the words.
I thoroughly enjoyed that match. Or no surprise, the biggest non-shocker of them all, Orange Cassidy beat number 37 or 4 or 9 or 3 or 12 or 62, whatever the fuck it was.
John Silver from the Dark Order. Pretty solid match considering. Yeah.
I was happy to see Orange Cassidy go over on that. I guess this would kind of be a surprise. Hikaru Shida retained the women's championship against a dude. And that's all.
And Vicky Guerrero lambasting Nyla Rose after the match. So I don't know if this means a split up between Vicky and Nyla, but we'll see, I guess.
Women's division AEW is a fucking train wreck. Changed my mind.
Yeah.
But I was glad to see Hikaru Shida. I do think we're going to ultimately get Hikaru Shida versus Thunder Rosa for the AEW Women's Championship at some point. It's just bound to happen, and they're going to have an awesome match.
All right, so Chris Brown talks about how why is it the referee asking if the other person's going to quit? Why isn't it the wrestler? Chris Jericho used to do that all the time. Ask him, ref, ask him. But no, I think it would be a better spin on it because you're trying to get that person to quit, similar to the Roman Reigns Jey Uso storyline. It would have been more effective if you're telling the person who just beat the shit out of you that you quit. You're telling them. You're not telling the referee. You're telling that person.
Well, because you think about it, like I think it was the '98 or the '99 Royal Rumble when Mick Foley fought The Rock in the I Quit match, where they took the thing where there was the I Quit, and like he looked like those chair shots. My fucking God,
ridiculous,
were just crazy. The only thing more devastating was when Mikey Whipwreck hit Mick Foley in the chair when he fought Shane Douglas. Foley, that was.
Right.
And like I'm still, that one always, like, how the hell did Foley survive that? But anyway, where the Rock took the microphone, shoved it in Foley's face, and then they played the recording of him in the interview saying, "I quit." That's when I was like, all right, that was kind of cool. But I do get it. Because if you think about it, the match doesn't end until what? The referee calls the match. So that's why the referee is the one that needs to get like.
Well, the referee could be there to.
But you also got to like, and I can understand why it's kind of stupid because the one thing I always remember because I always talk about it for many, many, many times, and it'll haunt me for the rest of my life is WrestleMania 11 when I went there, because they had an opportunity to have what could have been the match of the night between Bret the Hitman Hart and Bob Backlund, and what happened? Roddy Piper, who was the referee in the I Quit match, ruined that fucking match because all he did was he just kept going, Bob, you quit? No. Bret, you quit? No. And it was just like, come on, man, you don't have to ask every 5 fucking seconds. When it looks like they're about to quit, then you do it. Don't just be like, hey, you're going to quit? And it's like, I can't believe.
But storyline-wise, I think it's better if the person putting the beating on gets the I quit. The referee can be there to give the official word. But storyline-wise, I think it would be better. Like, again, you're having a blood feud that you're trying to end. And if you get that person to say, I quit,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that would take out specifically moments, not that it's the same exact thing, but like the submission match with Bret and Stone Cold. Without a referee there, then that match would have continued.
Yep. And
Stone Cold couldn't say I quit because he was knocked out.
Yep.
So that would be the only minor issue with that.
Yeah.
But, again, it's sports entertainment. It's predetermined. You can make it so the match doesn't end like that.
Right.
Or if you want to end it like that, so you're like, nobody won, you can continue it. So there's ways around that. But anyway, yeah.
That's a good point. I do like that. That's a very good question. And I'm glad that somebody actually brought that up because I've never even thought of it like that. Like, why do they go to the referee? Why don't they go to the referee? Why do they say to their opponent? And that's a solid question.
Yeah.
So, who was that? Chris Brown that brought that up?
Chris Brown.
That's why you're an F. Marks Hall of Famer, Chris.
That's right. Yeah.
Dynamite drop in, Monty. Those broadcasting schools are finally paying off.
Yeah, but definitely, I'm glad that Hikaru Shida won the match, and what the heck? They already have her title defense set up. I forget who it's against though at this moment. Yeah, I think it's Big Swole because I think Big Swole was in a #1 contenders match.
Yep, she is. She's due a title shot. I'm curious to see what happens when Chris Stratlander comes back. I know she's dealing with an injury.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to what is it, Hiho or Hilo or Milo or whatever the hell her name was? The
Riho.
That was it. The first champion. I haven't seen her in like months.
Maybe she's in Japan.
Maybe.
So, but really solid show. AEW. I'm not going to say they are on the same level of what NXT is with Takeover, where Takeover has never been bad. But on the whole, AEW pay-per-views are a better show on average than WWE. Yeah, most WWE pay-per-views. So,
as long as we don't count the takeovers.
So good on them, and they have to do better. They have to be better than WWE because they're charging $50 and $60 for people to watch it.
Right.
I personally, I think all of us would love if they had some sort of AEW streaming service.
For $10 a month, I could watch Orange Cassidy at any point in time.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? I pay triple what I pay for the WWE Network for like the Orange Cassidy channel.
But speaking of AEW, one thing that came out this week is in 2021 there is going to be a second AEW show on TNT. That they seem excited about, and obviously TNT, if they didn't like what they saw and didn't like the ratings, then that they wouldn't do anything more with AEW. But apparently they're cool with it, and I can only imagine what they're going to do. Honestly, with the fact that Raw has done away with the Raw Underground, I wouldn't mind if they, as far as formatting wise, they did something a little more similar to that.
Yeah.
Or something where it looks more like shoot fighting, and perhaps have people who actually knew what the hell they're talking about, in there.
Another thing in regards to AEW is AEW this week, they did like this whole spiel where everybody dressed up like Steve Jobs and announced that AEW will be coming out with its first ever video game, where they brought in one of the guys that was working for WWE back when they did like No Mercy and the WrestleMania 2000 video games for Nintendo 64 and kind of build the game towards that. But AEW will officially be having their first ever video game. And it was Britt Baker. It was referee Aubrey. Is that her name?
I think that's correct.
It was also Cody Rhodes and that piece of shit, whatever the fuck his name.
Kenny Omega.
Why do you speak his name in my presence?
Because he was there.
He looked like
trying to speak.
He looked like an even bigger dirt. How it's possible to look like a bigger doofus and dirt than he already did is just insane.
Yeah. Well, they're trying to raise the bar.
They didn't set the bar. They are the bar. But I think it's great. I love the fact that they're coming out with a video game, and it's fantastic. And I love those old school WWE video games. Those were the best. Yeah.
So,
trying to think if there's any other news and notes.
Of course, yes. We got rough.
All right, so this week on NXT, Johnny Gargano defended his NXT North American Championship against Leon Ruff.
It was like a spin the wheel type thing.
Yep.
And it was a very quick match. And Gargano got distracted by Damian Priest and got rolled up.
I love Damian Priest. Even though I forgot his name here.
You know what? I'm glad that they do things like this every once in a while to catch us off guard. Like even Gargano winning the North American title to me caught me a little off guard. I'm like, why do they just put the title on Damian Priest? Give him a little bit of a run here, but they're still continuing this feud with he and Gargano. So
And it's funny too because I did say that this title seems to be kind of hot potato-ish. This title's been around for what, a couple years now?
Yeah.
Think about all the different champions. I mean, Adam Cole, baby, won the title. Velveteen Dream held the title. Johnny Gargano has held it twice. Damian Priest has had it. Leon Ruff had it. Ricochet had it. Who the hell won it the first time? Was it Adam Cole was the first ever North American champion, I think?
yes,
But it seems like they've had quite a few North American champions. I mean, don't get me wrong. Leon Ruff winning the title was fucking wow. Like Jay said, it's incredible when they do stuff like that where they have all these surprises because you don't expect somebody like Leon Ruff winning. It's kind of like back about 20 some odd years ago when Monday Night Raw first came out and there was a match where Razor Ramon,
Roderick Strong, and Keith Lee were also North American champions. So there had been 9 North American champions in 2.5 years.
10th if you count the fact that was Johnny Gargano's second reign. So 9 different people, but 10 different reigns for North American champion.
No, they're counting Johnny Gargano twice.
Oh, well, fuck me then. 9 different champions in 2.5. 8 different champions in
2.5 years.
2.5 years.
All right,
that's a little. Okay.
So 30 months. So basically 3-month title reigns.
But I mean, if you look at it, I mean, there's 1, 2, 3.
All right. So all right. Okay. So looking at for the first, I would say about 20 months, everybody except for Gargano had a fairly significant title reign. Where
Gargano is not only has Gargano had the shortest title reign as North American champion, he also has the second shortest reign as North American champion because he lost it after 4 days to the Velveteen Dream the first time, and he just lost it to Leon Ruff 2 weeks after he beat Damian Priest to win it. Everybody else seems to have, okay, all right, I take back what I said. It's not a hot potato championship.
It's been kind of hot potato in the last
couple years or
so. Basically the last year. Basically, Keith Lee had it for a half year. And since Keith Lee lost it, or actually I should say vacated it, in the last 4 months, we've had 3 champions. So, but Chris Brown pointing out that the belief is that Leon Ruff winning the title was meant to be a comedy gag to enforce the idea that Johnny Gargano is a cursed champion, similar, I guess, to the fate of Sasha Banks when she was Raw Women's Champion. She couldn't defend the title.
Yeah. And they kind of led that into the whole storyline with her and Bayley, too, where Bayley said you can't retain championships.
It's just the Raw Championship, apparently.
Yeah.
Not the SmackDown.
Or the NXT.
Right.
Just Raw. But, I mean, I'm happy for Leon Ruff.
Even if it's just a moment in the sun, but hopefully they'll do a little bit more with him than nothing. But honestly, it probably feels like he'll probably get a couple of joke fluke title victories, and then they'll have whoever win it from him.
Probably be Karrion Kross. That'd be fucking.
They say that he's due back at any minute.
Well, they said when I saw that there was talk that he could have returned on this past Wednesday. Speaking of which, of NXT champions that are returning, Finn Balor will be coming out to discuss his future in NXT, I guess. They were saying something like he has to make a major announcement in regards to him. And the fact that he's going to be saying something speaks very highly because he has a fucked up job.
Yeah. We'll see what all that does.
And one more newsworthy note from NXT. We had Candice LeRae go up against Toni Storm on this past Wednesday. Candice LeRae did go over on Toni Storm, and then Shotzi Blackheart got involved. And then the masked Scream guy came out and helped Candice LeRae, and we finally found out that it was Shotzi Blackheart. Oh, God damn it, what the hell is her name? Oh, why am I blanking right now? Oh, this is terrible. This is why the brainless one needs to start writing shit down because he forgets quite a bit.
Yes.
Ah, fuck. What is his name? Give me a second.
Sorry, guys. I have been one thing that I'll mention right now is our podcast in starting next week is going to look different because I am in the midst of putting my house on the market and I'm going to be moving soon. So the look of the podcast at some point may return to this, but we're going to be in a different location. But I actually have to get my house all prepped for actually moving. But because of that, I have not been quite as in tune with everything going on in wrestling this week. So you'll have to excuse me for that for this week. But, next week is actually our 200th episode. So I'll be bringing my A game next week, and we'll have Survivor Series predictions and all that sorts of jazz.
Indy Hartwell. How the fuck did I forget Indy Hartwell? Oh, Christ, I forgot Damian Priest, too.
Yeah.
I've earned, you know what? Today I have earned, here, I'm just going to
You've already earned your own.
I am earning the brainless cap of brainlessness because I have completely brainless. I am horrible with names. That is why I forgot it was Indy Hartwell that was the one who got unmasked and doing that stuff. So
yeah. Chris, appreciate it. Jessica, appreciate that too. Like all this week, I've been touching up the paint around my house. I've been calling contractors to get them over here. I power washed my entire house. I repainted my outside, the stuff that wasn't siding. On top of that, I'm working my regular job, and I've got this freelance gig that is like all encompassing. All of this stuff all happening at once. So
very big project too.
All of them have been, all of them could sit there and
jostle you.
But when you got all three of them getting juggled at once, on top of the fact that I'm searching for a house, I have a bid on a house, and I'm just sitting here waiting for my real estate agent to get back to me saying yay or nay whether or not my offer is approved. But so we'll see. But we might be doing the podcast either from different locations or we might be doing the podcast from this room. But I have to get this stuff down and fill in the holes and paint over it. And I think as much as I love the Stone Cold banner, I think if somebody comes in to try to look at the house to try to decide whether or not they want to buy this house, I think seeing a skull, if they don't know what Stone Cold Steve Austin is a bad idea.
Yep, I agree.
So, yeah.
There is also talks that during all this process, and there might be a time where we will be hosting the podcast from what will be the unveiling of the brainless man cave of man caves, as I am putting together the final pieces of that, as I have just moved myself recently over the last couple of weeks. So I'm trying to get everything settled in as well. So
definitely it'll be a different look to the podcast. And if I look disheveled, it's because I've got a whole bunch of shit going on. But I love talking wrestling, so that's why I'm here. And
wait, I thought you loved talking wrestling and watching my brain melt.
Well, there's that too. But definitely, though, 2 weeks from now, I will be not doing the podcast because I will not be in Virginia. So, but if the brainless one is able to convince somebody to do the show with him, or if he does it solo, I might chime in from.
There is. I'll tell you right now. There was a time a couple years ago where I'm assuming I was hungover or something like that.
Yeah.
That there is an episode where Jay did the podcast solo, and I feel like I can do it because I have no problem talking, and I really have no problem.
Bless you.
I have no problem talking to myself either.
Well, and we've got all the wonderful people out there who actually join in.
I love every single one of you that tunes in each and every week and gives your opinions and everything. You are what keeps this podcast as a thriving entity, and we wouldn't be able to do this without any of y'all tuning in each and every week. So we do appreciate everything you guys bring to the table.
Absolutely. So beyond that, I think we're about ready for a good, bad, and brainless.
I think we are ready for a good, bad, and brainless. So what was your good for this week?
You know what? I'm going to go with Leon Ruff winning the North American Championship. It's like, I don't know. Again, I don't expect them to do great things with him. But, it was that little bit of a swerve that you just weren't expecting. And no way they'll take title off Gargano. I love it. So
we appreciate you guys, seriously. That's a good one. And I think that the added element of we were shocked, like, wow.
Yeah.
Every once in a while when they throw that curveball, because we always complain about how WWE is very predictable.
Yeah.
And that was probably the least predictable thing of anything they could have done.
Yeah.
Period. For me, the good for this week for me is I'm gonna have to go with Sasha Banks on The Mandalorian.
All right.
I think it's really good for her to kind of expand her horizons. A lot of people in the wrestling industry have expanded their horizons over the years. I mean, Hulk Hogan portrayed Thunder Lips, which was the single greatest performance by a professional wrestler. I'm sorry, single greatest performance in a movie by a professional wrestler, because Roddy Piper's performance in They Live was the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Put on the glasses was one of the greatest fight scene possibly in all of cinematic history.
That was with him and
Keith David. Keith David's voice you hear a lot on WWE documentaries, actually.
He was also the president in Rick and Morty. He was also in one of my personal...
To all my love slaves out there, Thunder Lips is here. In the flesh, baby.
Oh my God.
The ultimate male versus the ultimate meatball.
But I mean, I think it's good that she's actually expanded. You threw me off by taking Leon Ruff this week. I had Leon Ruff wrapped up on Wednesday, and it wasn't even close. So that was my good for this week, is Sasha Banks being on The Mandalorian, and I think it's great that she has the ability to expand into that.
Sure. My bad and brainless kind of are almost, they almost fuse together. I would call them like twins, but I'm going with WWE lowballing people that they're trying to get back, that they released back in like April.
Yeah.
You didn't need to release any of them. I made that argument back then.
Mm-hmm.
That they didn't need to release these people. AEW, a smaller company that has less money coming in, released nobody. Ring of Honor, I don't think has released anybody either. New Japan didn't release anybody. Why did the biggest company, most profitable wrestling company, have to release anybody? They didn't. It was all bullshit the whole time. And the fact that they're trying to bring these people back and pay them less is absolutely bullshit. And that's my bad.
My bad, yo.
Yeah.
Now, I had something else lined up for my bad, but after last night, I'm going to have to say this is my bad. And it's nothing like bad, like, oh, this was bad. It just sucks. And that's Chelsea Green getting injured in her main roster debut on SmackDown last night. You know, she hasn't been on television since May, and they didn't know, like, well, is she going to stay down in NXT? Is she going to go to the main roster? Is she going to be released?
Yeah.
You know, and I'm glad that she actually got the opportunity to be in the main roster. And she was supposed to win and be a part of the Survivor Series team. But unfortunately, she suffered a broken arm or wrist. Was it wrist?
I think wrist.
She suffered a broken wrist in her debut match on the main roster. And she went out and said it. She did have surgery last night. And I do hope for a speedy recovery for her. I really think that she has potential to be a star in the women's division. She was a great character in TNA.
Yeah.
Or Impact Wrestling. So Chelsea Green gets my bad for this week.
I'm going to say our brainless is going to be the same, and it's going to be the release of Zelina Vega. We've railed against the idea of the independent contractor thing, and the fact that it's because specifically of this Twitch and Cameo third-party software stuff that, you know, she was released because she was speaking her mind, and, you know, because she was pissed off that they weren't listening to her, speaks about, like, we need to unionize, and because of that, she gets fired. Again, it sucks, and it goes to speak of what WWE is doing as a corporation, where it's like, that they want to own these people, even though they call them independent contractors. Basically, they own you, and I don't like that. I don't like it at all.
And I think it's even more brainless just because it's going to lead to a domino effect going forward. Because I think Zelina Vega is going to be the first of what's going to be multiple future endeavors in WWE, and this is going to turn into a bigger mess for Vince McMahon. And I've been saying it all year long. Nobody has been taking so many more L's in 2020 than Vince McMahon, and he's going to continue taking them in 2021, especially when Andrew Yang is going to be in the ear of the president, and they're going to be looking really deep into all this stuff.
But at this moment, you know what? He's going to be taking L's while laughing at his way to the bank.
Till he gets fucked in 2021. It's going to happen. Make Vince McMahon retired.
We shall see.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
that is all the topics for today.
Episode 199 in the books.
So if you like what you've seen, whether you are a first-time fan or somebody who is a continuous fan and hasn't listened to us in any other previous episodes, make sure you like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Periscope, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to us on YouTube at the letter T, the letter H, the letter E, the letter F, the letter N, MARKS, the F and Marks. If you like, follow, and subscribe to us, we will do the same back. It's always been our mantra.
And with All Elite Marks, the Facebook page, that's where we go live every week. Make sure you set up the notifications so you know when we go live. And that is at facebook.com/All Elite Marks. So
Yeah.
So, all right.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
I like it. Solid show today.
Thank you for everybody for tuning in.
This is great. You know, we want to wait. We're not forgetting something, are we?
You know what? I think we are.
Is it because today, which is November 14th, and it's easy for me to remember because yesterday was Friday the 13th. And after an astonishing 1,927 days, Epic Marks Hall of America is still alive in the 2015 Royal Rumble.
Yeah. So
next week will be 200 episodes of Curtis Axel.
Yeah.
Curtis Axel. So, anyways, for episode 199 of the Epic Marks Podcast,
I'm Jay.
And I am the brainless one. Make sure you mug up
with your guac out. Thanks, everybody. We'll catch you later.
200th episode. Woo!
Yeah.
Which means next year will be a momentous occasion when we hit the 250. Yeah.